NBA season. Thought?
I think he's definitely coming back. I think he's had so many good years with that team, and I think I saw that it was just a move made in order for him to create cap space for the Mavericks. I feel like that's what it was.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the big news from the Pacers. Obviously, they decided that they won't be bringing back Lance Stevenson for his option. That puts Lance Stevenson on the free agency block. First of all, I don't know that a lot of fans are really surprised. I don't think that Lance Stevenson I guess what I'm trying to say is it was clearly a business decision made by Pritchard and the Pacers organization, and I think it was probably a good business decision for them. Maybe not the most popular fan decision, but certainly I think a decision that needed to be made that the Pacers won't bring back Lance Stevenson this coming up year.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's a very entertaining player, but at the end of the day, he's also, he's not as effective as he could be because the way, the reason why people, a lot of people love him is because of what kind of makes him ineffective in a way. It's kind of like a double-edged sword being so, doing a lot of like crazy stuff on the court, making some reckless passes and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes, it really works out. Sometimes it really doesn't. And you don't want, like that kind of inconsistency when you're, you're playing in the playoffs, because if you don't want to go up against LeBron James, have LeBron, attack Lance, score, and then Lance try to one-up him, and then you waste a possession. I think it's a good move. I feel like they needed more perimeter shooting in general anyways, and Lance isn't much of a perimeter shooter. So, you can definitely upgrade spots here and there with three-point shooting. It'll help your team. And I also think it's going to be interesting to see what his market is like. I think he's probably going to have to sign for a very cheap contract, but I think I'm more so interested to see like what type of teams are going to be looking at him this summer, because I can't really think of a whole lot of teams that should be interested.
Grant, now are you at Arizona State or the other Arizona University? University of Arizona or Arizona State? Okay, always get that confused. We're joined by Grant Alseth, who's studying now. Are you studying sports marketing, sports journalism? What's your actual major there?
Sports and media studies at the business school.
Great, fantastic. Well, certainly Grant's going to be up and coming, and he's going to be one of the big media players sometime in the near future. No doubt about that. So the Spurs say, hey, we don't want any part of the Lakers balls. LOL. I almost literally said LOL, because anyway. I digress. The Spurs don't want any part of Lonzo Ball, which was part of a thought pattern that the Lakers would trade Ball and part of a way to get Kawhi Leonard to the Lakers. And I do not know why I cannot talk today on a Saturday morning, but it is what it is. So Lonzo Ball, if they're going to make this mega team with Jordan, Leonard, and James at the Lakers, he's going to have to leave the Lakers. Where's he go?
I think, I think probably for the Lakers, I think it more so would probably end up being, using Brandon Ingram, I think, or, to get Leonard. I think that's what I've been seeing is like, they're most interested in him. And also Lonzo, tearing that meniscus, I believe is what it was. That kind of makes it, tough to put him on the table. I don't think I think that's just enough to make him not be included in those sort of talks.
So let's play a monkey in the wrench here. There are other players out there. The Philadelphia 76ers say, hey, trust the process. Part of their process, they want to bring Leonard to the 76ers. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that would be a great fit because, they need more wing help out there. I think, it was kind of tough whenever, watching the playoffs because, they had like J.J. Redick and Marco Bellinelli on the wing sometimes, and, there were non-factors with, how, they're not the best of defenders. So, going from being able to have those types of players out there, and then to replace it with Kawhi Leonard, and then have a lineup with Robert Covington out there as well on the wing. I think that'd be a very interesting team.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Sacramento Kings. They have plenty of cap room, and Casey Johnson of the Chicago Tribune says that they may want to go after Bulls restricted free agent Zach LaVine. LaVine was part of that deal that sent Jimmy Butler to Minnesota, but was limited last season after recovering from an ACL injury. Thoughts?
I don't really know why they'd be interested in pursuing him. It's kind of weird to think about because they already have Bogdanovich, who had a pretty good season, and he's basically the size of a shooting guard. 205 pounds. You don't want him playing small forward enough. And then you also have Buddy Hield on there. It's just kind of a weird thing. Like there must be some sort of a bigger plan, I would imagine, in place there if they were to, successfully land him. Or maybe they're just trying to drive up prices for restricted free agents around the league, like, how Brooklyn has been doing the last few seasons by putting out, like, ridiculous offer sheets on guys. And actually Sacramento did that with Otto Porter, so maybe, they're trying to do that again.
So, Enes Kanter of the Knicks, ESPN's Ian Begley reports that Kanter is going to probably opt in with the Knicks at $18.6 million. Thoughts on that free agency?
I think that's a smart business move. There's just really not a whole lot of money out there for the center position right now. With a lot of teams already have centers, and the teams that have money don't really need a center. And the way their timelines are for their teams, they're not really in need of, spending on some of those types of players, especially those that aren't necessarily the best of defensive players either.
So let's talk again about the Pacers. I think when you got a guy like Leonard that's available to come to a team, I think if you're Pritchard, you've at least got to look at the opportunity. They've got more than $20 million in salary cap space. I know they also may want to go after Aaron Gordon, but do you think that the Pacers would be in play for a guy like Kawhi Leonard?
I don't think they would, because I think it's tough whenever you were on the opposite end of that type of a trade last year with Paul George, where you giving up things to get the guy that wants to go to Los Angeles would kind of be an interesting turn of events when you gave up the guy that wanted to go to Los Angeles. I just think it's too much of a direct learning experience for them. But it would be interesting because, they have a lot of guys who have expiring contracts after this upcoming season. And if you don't really want to bring them back per se, great odds of giving them a contract extension, then you might as well just put them together and, see what you can do with Kawhi Leonard, I guess, if you can kind of stack up with other offers. I think it would be tough if you were in a theoretical situation, if you were trying to make an offer for Leonard, because you don't really want to include something that you view as a long-term piece. So I wouldn't really include, like Turner or Sabonis, because we also don't even know the health situation of Leonard either. I think it would probably be tough to compare with, teams like Boston, the Lakers, because they have guys like Brandon Ingram to throw in there. And then, even Philadelphia has some good stuff to offer. So I think it'd be good in theory. It's just tough to pull off and have it be, logical for, a risk in case it doesn't pan out.
So let's kind of just go through the NBA free agent tracker, if you will. Give me just a second here. So let's just kind of go through those. Now, first of all, how much persuasion, if you will, does Magic Johnson still have in the NBA? How relative is Magic Johnson in the NBA? Hi, I'm Magic Johnson. I can pay you millions of dollars. Come to L.A. I mean, do players come to the Lakers because of Magic Johnson? Does Magic Johnson have the ability to persuade players to come to the Lakers?
I think he has some influence. I know he for sure does for Paul George. I remember actually, it's kind of funny, like seeing last trade deadline, they were saying, Paul George is a huge Magic Johnson fan, and one of the actual influencing factors of his decision to want to go to Los Angeles, around that January, February time last year when that news came out, about him wanting to go to LA was actually because they named him their president of basketball operations. So I guess it does for some guys, but I don't know if it has like enough of an influence to be like, hey, I'm just because I'm Magic Johnson come to LA. I think it's more like he's got a really good situation to be able to pitch like a destination spot, like being in Los Angeles. I don't think it would have the appeal if he were to pitch, let's say from like a Utah or an Indiana type of standpoint.
So let's go through some of these free agents that are on the ticker here, if you will. We've talked about LeBron James, and we'll continue to talk about LeBron James until he decides what to do. Does Kevin Durant stay with the Warriors?
I think he definitely stays with the Warriors. I think it's too good of a situation to leave. It's crazy to think that you can basically go to a team where you don't really have much fear of losing out on a championship for like 3 to 5 years at least. So I don't think he'll leave there.
So we talked about Paul George, Chris Paul. What are your thoughts?
I think Chris Paul sticks around in Houston. I think the real thing to watch is how long of a contract they end up giving him, because he could be like 38 years old, getting paid around like $40 million per, like in that season at like 38 or so. So I think that's more so the thing to watch. I think also for George, I think it's mostly whether he stays in Oklahoma City or LA. I think it's mostly LA for what I'm seeing.
Houston center teammate to Chris Paul, also free agent, and that's Clint Capella. Man, I'm just going to stop talking today, Grant. What are your thoughts on Clint? Where's he go?
That's a really interesting thing to think about, like his free agency, because a lot of the teams that could use a young center kind of already got one. The Phoenix Suns were a really good example. They drafted DeAndre Ayton out of Arizona, and they were a team that people were thinking could offer, a significant contract. And then you have the Dallas Mavericks. If they do indeed land DeAndre Jordan, then obviously they wouldn't need a center. But I think if Jordan goes elsewhere, then that kind of saves the center market for guys like Capella, since it would make sense for them to target and they have the money to do so. But, overall, I think he'll be back in Houston. I think they really value him, and they'll match pretty much any offer that he gets.
We were talking about centers, and DeMarcus Cousins. He's another one that's on the tracker that people are looking at. What are your thoughts with him?
That's a really unfortunate free agency for him. I feel like it's going to be, because I don't think a whole lot of teams are going to want to pay to have to see if he can come back from that Achilles injury when salary cap spending is so so precious and sacred now, with how bad teams have been blowing their money recently. And I think that's what I was seeing as well, like from some reporters saying, New Orleans is looking to bring him back, on a 1-year deal, but I don't think teams are gonna pay him nearly as much as what many people are probably thinking that he should get.
So, knowing that Leonard is out of play for the Pacers, and knowing that the Pacers need a good forward, if you will, to really kind of complete what they put together last year with Victor Oladipo and the whole team over there at the Pacers, I would think that Pritchard and the Pacers organization really make a heavy run after Aaron Gordon, and do they have what it takes to bring him to town? Again, remember, they have $20 million in cap space.
Yeah, they can if they do a variety of things, like renounce the cap holds of like Lance Stevenson, Leonard Robinson III, and all their free agents that they have hitting the market and waive